All right, guys, we're gonna get into it. Ahsoka, not a. Where are we at?
Hi.
Wow, well,
Oh,
technical
we're in the
difficulties.
dark.
We're in the world between worlds.
Hey, Snips. All right,
There we go.
here we are.
Hey.
We're here.
Hey.
We're back. But no, Ahsoka. I'm assuming so far we're assuming it's season 1 and not series
Hey,
finale.
Dita.
But Ahsoka has come to an end.
Yep.
This was a very highly anticipated series for Disney Plus. And we're just gonna jump right into it, you guys. I mean, like, look, I know you guys were big fan. I do not have the context of watching Rebels or Clone Wars, but you guys do. And that's why I really want to get your thoughts on this, because obviously Dave Filoni was involved in this. This is his baby. It's part of his Mandoverse or whatever it's called. But this was a very highly anticipated show because of who was involved, the character involved. It's a live-action version of something we haven't seen before. And again, it's Dave Filoni's baby. He was highly involved in this. But, Tone, I'm going to come to you first, man. Let's get the conversation going.
Okay.
Ahsoka, season 1.
Well, I'm gonna so how this is gonna work is I'm gonna let definitely at some point you kind of lead the way to have you on here. Me and Rohit have talked extensively with Seven Dungeons, Crash about this series every episode. I think you're the only other one besides myself that watches it back to back, or at least twice right away.
Yep.
As soon as the episode's done, I go watch it again, and then go to bed. So
Typically
typically how that works, but I really enjoyed the series. Overall, I did love it. I give it probably still about an 8.5 out of 10 if we were ranking, stars, or whatever. But I would say the big things about it was it was hard to balance core fans that have been longtime fans and casual fans. I think there's an honest piece with that, but I look at that at two sides. One, people had plenty of time knowing this was coming in to do their research, even if it was a Wikipedia. I don't care, anything.
Yep.
There was actually something released that said, if you want to know more, here's essential episodes. You can go back and watch Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff like that.
I feel like this is a personal attack, but okay, continue.
Sure, but I'm just saying. But you also didn't have to, because I feel like one of the critiques that, of course, IGN said after the first couple episodes and when they were whining about it was that they were taking too much time explaining backstory stuff. And I don't agree. I think they did that well enough to where they didn't oversaturate that and give people a little bit of an idea.
I needed it.
Right. And it was good, and I think it's fair they did it, but I don't think it was like overdone either, though. I think it was a good amount to get people kind of an idea what was going on.
Do you think maybe it's because of the people that were already familiar with the source material? They're just like, oh, we're taking too much time.
Kind of, but even then, for me, it didn't feel like it drug on. I just, as a super fan of the character, of the series, because Dave said, and people had said, I don't know if Dave directly said it, but he kind of said it basically, that this was this was Rebel season 5 or whatever.
Right.
So this was just a live action continuation of that. And I know some people don't want to watch cartoons. That's perfectly fine. You also had a choice not to watch it too, and I'd rather people see it because they did make it for casual fans. But this is a truly, at its core, at its heart beating, is a love letter to those of us that have followed this character for years, love the Rebels series, because we've said it many times on the show. Rebels is the best that captures the true essence and heart of what Star Wars has been, should be, and will always be.
Sure.
Rebels did that the best. And that's why these characters mean so much to a lot of us, is because we had to watch them grow. We've watched them grow. We watched Ahsoka. I went and saw that movie in 2008 in the theaters. I don't remember if you were with me or not.
No, I wasn't interested.
But it was awful. You know what I mean? It was awful.
Yeah, it was an awful movie.
And then the characters introduced in the Clone Wars, and then you see, out of all the characters in Star Wars, it's one of the few that went from here to here,
hated to loved,
yeah, and in the best way possible, because Dave stuck with it, told the story, let the character grow, things in that nature as well. So this series did a lot of things for me that made me excited. I definitely feel like, now Andor to me is a different piece of Star Wars, because it stands on its own legs, because if you take Star Wars out of it, it's just really well written. You don't,
and it doesn't lean into the Jedi stuff.
It doesn't, and that which is why it's so great in my opinion. This brings it back to like more core feeling of Star Wars, a good mix of Clone Wars, prequels, and original trilogy, honestly.
Sure.
Like just a good mix of everything you want, but also at the same time, you know, giving guys like us had watched it for a long time those silent wink wink nudge nudges and eggs, Easter eggs, and things that we wanted to see and hope to see. It did a really good job of that. Now, it may have lost some casual fans along the way, but I've also heard a lot of casual fans that were like, this is really good. This is really
I would
well
consider
written.
myself casual. Like I said,
Yeah,
I
that's
know
fine.
the mainline movies.
Sure.
You know, and
Yep.
I know some of the spin-off stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm getting caught up through
Yeah.
like Andor and,
Yeah.
and other things like that. But like I would consider myself casual compared to you guys. 'Cause
Sure,
you guys have
sure.
read books, you guys have watched a lot of shows and stuff like that. But like I came out of this going, this was a good show.
Yeah,
It was an entertaining
still a good entertaining show. Now, and we may dive into some of that as well too. There were some characters that really. The problem with this show was that it's a very ambitious on its storytelling, especially when you're trying to like bring people in and you're trying to take some ideas that really were birthed in Clone Wars as a cartoon and in Rebels and try to bring them live action and put them as a main centerpiece in Star Wars. It's not easy to do, and you're going to probably lose some people along the way doing that as well. And we're still not even sure if it's going to pan out right. Honestly, I'd say my biggest issue overall, point blank, with this series was the finale did not feel like a finale.
Yeah.
It felt like an episode setting up the finale,
Yep.
and we needed more. I think the series was good to have it as a series, not as a movie, because it helped draw stuff out. But that last episode left me, and this is the biggest issue I have with it completely. That last episode left me very like wanting more, and I don't know whether it was time, whether he didn't have enough more. I know you're going to get into probably some of that as well too, but you know, there's more planned for what's called the Mandoverse. A lot of this is supposed to tie in with the Mandalorian. We'll see where that goes. We still don't know how that's going to fit. You know, we'll get to that point at least at some point too. But Filoni is known. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's kind of known for leaving things a little unanswered to kind of like leave you guessing a little bit. And that's okay in some senses, but when you get to a live action like this that's not a cartoon, it's really not a good thing if you want to keep people around for a while.
Yeah, that's the thing about that, because he did it in Rebels a lot with Ahsoka, the World Between Worlds. Because and I see I kind of disagree
reference,
with Tone in a point to where like I think you shouldn't have to do research for a show, but I'm glad you guys enjoyed it that didn't do the research. But like there's a thing well, there's something that happens in season 2 of Rebels, and it's a huge cliffhanger, and that doesn't get answered until season 4.
I think.
Yeah. But so he is, but like I do agree with him saying like you can't, for a live action is a little bit different because you want a wider audience, so you can't do certain things you do with animation you can't do with live action.
Do you guys think that because it is live action, obviously there's a bigger budget involved compared to cartoons and such like that? Do you think, you know, and there's a lot of speculation that that this might, we haven't heard of a season 2 yet. They haven't announced it yet. There's speculation that obviously the way that it's set up, that it could be a season 2, but then there's also the confirmation from Filoni that he is directing a movie. He is going to get a film that's going to be kind of built around this Mandoverse. Do you think they're waiting to see the results of this to decide whether or not they're going to make the movie be the next natural step in progression in the story?
I don't think they know what they're doing, to be honest.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
If you look at Marvel and Lucasfilm, like I'm very critical on Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but like I'm not one of those fans that's like, oh, I'm just happy I'm getting Star Wars. No, because to me, Star Wars should never be mid. It should never be generic storytelling. To me, Star Wars should always be an event because that's what it was, right? So Lucasfilm's track record has been all over the place and has not been good. I mean, we can sit here and say we enjoy certain things, but there's been so many hirings and firings, and just I don't think they know what they're doing. They announced these movies, but with James Mangold, he directed the indie movie with that bombing. Is he still going to get his thing? You know, like the sequels or hate the sequels, you have half of your fan base that does not like the sequels, okay? That's just a given. There's people, half your fan base does not like the sequels. So instead of straying away from that, you're pushing towards it. So here's an example. Marvel recently just scrapped the entire Daredevil stuff that they did, right? Because they said, we don't think fans are going to like this. So they scrapped all of it and they're rewriting it because they want to give the fans what they want. And they want to make it quality stuff. And Star Wars, knowing that half their fan base didn't like Rey and the sequel trilogy, says, guess what? We're making another Rey movie. That's not the right direction to go. Move far away from that. Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't think they know what they're doing. I didn't like Boba Fett. I did not like Obi-Wan. I liked episodes of in each show, but I liked Andor, but it was kind of boring to me at times, but I still liked it. It was probably the best writing that you'll see. But I am a fan of adventure. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Mandalorian, what's up?
What'd you say?
Oh, adventure.
Thank you.
Excitement. Never his mind on where he was, what he was doing.
A Jedi craves not these things.
For this long time, I was. No, thanks. There we go.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I knew they'd give you.
Concentrate. But no, I don't think they know what they're doing, and I didn't like a lot of the stuff they did. But I felt like, for me, this felt the most Star Wars, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because look at everything that I have liked has been Filoni's had a hand in, besides Andor. Because I feel like Filoni treats it as a passion, whereas everybody else treats it like a product.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2, I thought those were like, oh my God, this feels like Star Wars. And the respect for the lore and the characters were there. Mandalorian season 3, which Filoni didn't have a part of, was was not good to me. Yep. You know, it was fine, but it wasn't good. This was excellent to me. It had some things, and I give it. I'm on like 7.5, 8. I would have gave it a 9 out of 10 if they had stuck the landing. But I felt like in pro wrestling, we say the spots don't matter, the moments do, right? So I felt like they rushed a lot of moments, especially in the last episode. Sabine, I got my pros and cons. I'll run it down real quick.
Let's get into some of your pros and cons.
My pros and cons.
I would love.
This is what I was thinking.
We'll probably. I mean, I don't think there's much that we don't disagree on. Actually, and we fall on the same. On the same a lot of this stuff.
But I did love this show. Like you'll hear me, have some cons about it. But like I told Tone, like I'm excited to see what happens next. I'm not scared or dreading. I'm like, oh my God, they're like knocking it out of the park. And it was honestly the last 2 episodes that kind of dipped, which sucked because they're the last 2 episodes, but especially that last one. Like when they, for one of my pros, I have Thrawn, right? Mm-hmm. Thrawn, I thought Lars Mikkelsen was awesome.
Who I thought was actually Robert Patrick. Like
really?
I mean, I knew it was Lars.
He died, didn't he?
No, he's really alive. But when I looked at him, I was like, man, I know that's Lars Mikkelsen, but I was like, at the same time, I could see that being Robert Patrick.
I was like, oh, I can see that.
I can see that. Now you said it.
I was like, is that Robert Patrick?
I thought he was excellent with.
Have you seen this Jedi?
I thought he was excellent with the way he acted. I thought the way he carried himself, the way he spoke. I didn't care that he was a little out of shape. He's an old man. Mm-hmm. But he was also on my cons because I felt like he was not a master tactician. He escaped.
They tried to create that.
They told us, they didn't show us.
But they didn't show us. Exactly.
So let
I
me.
Was like, ew.
So I agree with you on both points. Thrawn was a pro and con. He was in presence and everything. How they presented him, how he sounded was great. The con was, yes, they showcased just a little bit, especially when she was in the asteroid belt. They showcased a little bit of his tactfulness mind, but the rest of it felt very weak-wristed because...
Do you know what it reminded me of? Kang and Ant-Man.
It kind of did.
He's there, like, he's this massive threat.
There's no consequence.
But he's just kind of like, there.
He's literally flicking at flies. It's not like he's got an entire fleet of rebel ships he's trying to outmaneuver. It's like, you're literally using blaster cannon, like fodder blaster against people with lightsabers.
And my biggest thing, he was reactive, not proactive.
Right.
Exactly,
and that's like Thrawn, he was no different than any other general, or he didn't they didn't show what we know he's capable of.
Yep.
So that was something there.
So we'll see.
But so hopefully they change that. pros was the characters, cool new characters. I know Huang was in Clone Wars, but if you didn't watch Clone Wars, that was the first time he was in live action. The robot, the droid.
One of my favorite droids.
Voiced by David Tennant.
Was awesome.
Was it David Tennant?
Like his just shallow humor, or his dry humor was excellent.
Can you teach me how to build a lightsaber? No.
Exactly. Everything he did, like you are one of the worst
Yeah.
Force people I've ever seen. Like that type of shit. But Shin and Balin stole the show for me.
Yeah.
Anytime.
I was actually disappointed with the way they hit Balin at the end.
At the end, yes. I was like, that was, again, episode 8 was just like, what are we doing here?
Pisses me off because we're not going to be able to see that anymore.
Correct. But like every time he was on screen, no matter even if his dialogue was corny, he hit it out of the park.
He had that presence, that gravitas, where he's just like, dude, when Ray was there, you were just like, I want to know what he's gonna say.
Gotta be Lee Schreiber.
Give me some fucking.
I'll take him or
man,
gotta be Lee
Schreiber.
Ass
what's the
fucking
who played Leonidas?
Yeah.
I'll take him.
Lee Schreiber and him are the same height though.
Oh really?
Ray Stevenson and him are the same fucking height.
What's his name? Leonidas.
Who was Leonidas guy?
Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
Oh,
Interesting.
I
would rather go with Schreiber because Butler, when he talks, when he's not using his real voice, you can see it too much.
Lee Schreiber
Schreiber would crush it.
Anyways.
But hopefully they do that. But honestly, I cared about him and Shin, what they were doing more than anything. And I thought when and this goes one of my cons was rush moments, when they say goodbye. It was just rushed. He's like, all right, peace out. I was like,
yeah, go do your thing. I'm gonna go my way. I was just like,
damn,
wow.
that's
our
so
path. It could have been more talk about that.
Yes, it's something like you could have sat there with it, and it was just like deuces.
And some of the conversations people think where they're going with that is weird.
And the thing that bugged me about the Balin Skull thing is like I could tell there was some conflict, some inner conflict with him, and like I really wanted more of that. And like I said, we get to the 8th episode, and all he does is peace out to Shin, and then you see him standing on the fucking the big ass statue. And I was just like, man, I really wanted to know what was going on with him. What was he really going after?
Mason said some good stuff. I do want to point out. He said, love Clone Wars, love Rebels. Seeing in IRL Zeb was really cool.
Yeah, I was so bummed he wasn't in this. Oh, my God.
Fuck it. You can't tell me they can't give him budget to put him in that, for fuck's sake. Anyways, we're headed to the Thrawn trilogy. Love seeing canon. Do some justice for the characters and stories. Filoni directing is different. Yes. Episodes 1 and 5 definitely hit different than the rest.
They did, yeah.
Absolutely. Mason is where too. Andita says she wanted to see more Cad. I love Cad Bane.
I thought Cad Bane was cool, and the way he talked was freaky.
His voice was fucking dope.
I definitely.
was cool.
Yeah, definitely. So, continue.
My cons were Ahsoka and Sabine.
Yep.
Man, I hate to say it, man. I didn't give 2 shits about Sabine, and I loved her in Rebels. They tried to make her this badass rebel chick again, but she's a grown woman now. Mm-hmm. All of her decisions were selfish.
Yep.
She came across petulant, and she had 0 consequences. I was like, you released the biggest threat on the galaxy, and it's good job, no big deal. Fuck that.
She was written like a fucking teenager in high school.
Yes.
She is a fucking royal Mandalorian of pure blood Mandalorian.
Selfish as fuck.
That's why Huang calls her lady, by the way, is because she's from Royal House of Mandalore. That's a nice little Easter egg there for you. You can put that in your book. But
CW.
Yeah, she was CW.
It was ridiculous. She's a grown ass woman, lost her family in the Purge of Mandalore, and she's acting like she's just some no nonsensical person.
Yeah.
She was training with Kanan to learn how to use the Darksaber, so that's why she can kind of use the lightsaber. She worked with Ahsoka, but it was so like, why couldn't we? They loved in Boba Fett to do time jumps. Why didn't we do a little bit with that to show Ahsoka trying to train her and show her struggles with that, and maybe showing her emotional struggle to get there. Yeah. That way we would have understood better their relationship, but they didn't do that. And that's really weird for Filoni not to, I felt.
And I didn't care about their relationship either. And I think part of it was they had no relationship in Rebels. They touched
all the more reason they need to show that to us.
Exactly. So it was like there was nothing there. Like they're the 2 main characters, and I didn't care about them at all. I cared about Ahsoka, but I love, like I said, I love Sabine, and the actress was fine.
It wasn't her fault.
It was not her fault. It's the material they gave her. But those 2, their acting
they just needed
was
conflict.
Flat. Whereas like Thrawn, Shin, later on Hera, the first few episodes of Hera, she was flat, but afterwards Hera was great. And then fucking Ezra. We'll get to him. He was so good. But like those two, and they tried to make, and they do this with the Jedi now. They did it with, even though Luke was he was AI, they try to make him and Ahsoka too stoic, and it comes across dry and boring and flat. And like it wasn't until Ahsoka started to loosen up a bit. Even then, it was still like the way she acted. It just wasn't. I don't know. It was just. It came across weird to me.
It's so funny how you guys mentioned how like some of these other characters were better written, more pronounced, more had bigger impacts on the show.
Yeah.
It almost goes back to what we did with Mando. How like, is this really Mando's show or is this really Boba Fett's show?
It
because
was Sabine's
you
show.
have Ahsoka. Here's Ahsoka,
really
but
odd.
not given the best material, not given the best situations to really, let her character make her presence felt. You had other characters that were kind of like taking the lead.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, Dita says Ahsoka's appearance in Mandalorian was so good. That Ahsoka, that Ahsoka, and this Ahsoka were two different Ahsokas. The only time we saw that Ahsoka was when she first saw Ezra and got a hug. She actually smiled for once. Like I get she's
there
a little
was
bit
energy
more,
and charisma there.
I get that she's been through a lot. She had, she's fulcrum. She went through the war, doing whatever she was doing during then, things of that nature. So I understand that that's that growth. But like in Mandalorian, you saw a little bit more life from her. And like Rosario Dawson's a great actress.
She is.
Ahsoka, including even in the Rebels cartoon, had a little bit more life in her as well too.
She was very
a bit more right.
And it's not a joke; it's animated. She was, but that was a big thing too. They dropped the ball on was Ahsoka's story. She went through so much, and they gave us crumbs of that.
Very little.
Like I had no idea. I had to kind of piece it together myself that she was scared because she was Anakin's apprentice. You know what I mean? I didn't.
Yeah.
I had to be told like, oh yeah, she was scared of what she would have become. I didn't know that at all because that was not portrayed. That was not shown. And like her story to me and her baggage and any of her PTSD was way more interesting than what they told us in the season.
Exactly. And like it was great how they wanted to get there.
Yes.
But they skipped B. It was A to C.
Yes.
Thankfully for the Anakin episode to kind of give us some B to kind of get there.
That's where
was a cool way to get there.
That's where I kind of felt like when she sees Anakin and they have those scenes. There is a scene where she brings up, what he
works
becomes.
Through all that. Yep.
And like
but we've never seen her deal with it.
Right.
We've
and that was
never seen her deal with it.
That was like the one moment where she really acknowledged it.
Yeah.
Where he was like, he goes, is this really what this is about right now? And I was just like, okay, so I understand some of her
that
concerns.
episode.
That episode was great.
That episode I was dope, and I don't even know the context of everything that you guys know.
But that was very vague. Like, and current Star Wars has this issue where they change really good iconic characters off screen. Like they did it, like whether you liked what happened to Luke or not, he's an iconic character, and they fundamentally changed him off screen. So we have to put this headcanon together on why he's like that. And for him, for like half of us, that didn't work because he is such an iconic character, and that's not what we want to see at all. We want to see season 2 Luke and Mando, you know what I mean? And then you build to that, and then when that actually does happen, it makes sense. But I mean, for that, that's a whole different thing. But for Ahsoka, it's the same thing. We know she's Anakin's apprentice, but even for us that saw the cartoons, that is never dealt with. That's never, when she first finds out that he's Vader, we see that for a little bit, but we never see anything her dealing with that. And then they just pick up with that. Like there.
Yeah, because it's
And
funny
it's
when you
just
say
weird.
that because
Like,
that's a good point. Yeah, because you're right. Because when she reemerges in Rebels, it's almost like it didn't happen to a degree.
Yes.
Like all she basically says is like, you can't, when he tries to save Kanan, she's like, don't do that. That's going to change. You know what I mean? Like that, but she doesn't she's just fresh out of the situation. She doesn't accept it. But you're right. That's kind of odd. And that sucks because I know in the heart of hearts of Filoni, he's trying to do the best he can to tell a good live action story about the character and show that growth, which from a character who's grown since 2008 so far.
Right.
But like she deserved a little bit better than that. And maybe instead of using the plot devices fucking CW Sabine, we could have done something a little bit different. The show is called Ahsoka and it is the Rebel cast, but like they were so much like satellites, and again we focus so much on Sabine CW bullshit that that's really the best storytelling we could have. That time should have been used with Balin, and that time should have been used with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Cherry says, but do you think they do that because filming it and acknowledging there would be too much pressure from the fans? I mean, you go back again to the fans. I mean,
I don't think so because Filoni is usually good at stuff like that, but for whatever reason they skipped it. It's like the whole thing with Luke and Ahsoka meeting. That should be a big deal. But he even says, yeah, I know. I have an idea on how they meet, but I don't know how to execute it. So, and that can't be, you're either a good writer or you're not. So, and if you're a good writer, you'll make that work.
I'm friends with the family.
But
That's what she said.
well, that's cool.
Mando showed up. Said that to
Oh, yeah.
She said, "I'm friends with the
family. Yeah. But, yeah, it's, yeah, it's like, those are key moments. Like, you can't take that out because you're scared to write it. That's a key moment. So you're either going to put up or shut up, I guess. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
The soundtrack was awesome. Like,
Oh, yeah, really good.
The Obi-Wan soundtrack was so horrible. and part of Star Wars, the life of Star Wars, part of it is the soundtrack. No one's touching John Williams. That's just a thing. But Kevin Kiner has done stuff for Clone Wars, Rebels, Tales of the Jedi, and they have it's a few people, but like he's killed it. And some of the themes in this, like it wasn't John Williams, but it didn't need to be because it still felt like Star Wars.
It felt more like that Kurosawa stuff we were talking about. Like it had more of like a Japanese
felt
vibe to
very,
it.
very like just like that
A
episode.
lot of the visuals, a lot of the music, a lot of even the fights, the setups, the lead up to the battles. I mean, it was just like very
that whole
Japanese
whole battle. With Mando and
Bib Fortuna.
I know. And Michael Biehn, and then the fight with Ahsoka and Morgan Elsbeth that first time felt very Kurosawa. Like and many times in this, and that was the whole point. They've always leaned into kind of that Bushido feel with it, which I do like about that as well too. Sherry does say, do you think that if they would have executed it and it would have been poorly, that it probably pissed fans off more? Surely that could have been. You got to be really careful, especially with our fandom. But because she says like the Rings of Power.
We're not talking about that.
But that is a good point. But that is a good point.
Rings of Power. I'm not even gonna get into that. But
oh no, we won't.
Focus, Danielson.
Yeah, I'm trying. Khan was the new galaxy. It could have been a new planet.
Oh, new galaxy.
You did nothing to make that seem like anything
one
different.
Location and then going back.
And it looked like a snowy day, a shitty rainy day in Colorado. It didn't look like it
looked like they were outside of Rohan.
Yeah, and honestly, and it's just a nitpick, but it's like, guys, you don't need to do New Galaxy. You can do the Outer Rim with planets that we've never seen before, and that would make just as much sense. A new galaxy, you think it would be something totally. You have an opportunity to be like something totally different.
Yeah,
like
the one time you can actually create something new.
Yeah, like that. You ever see The Arrival?
Yeah,
those aliens. They're like so weird and different, but it's like. Okay, it's like something like it's beyond our imagination.
Always great.
If it's a new galaxy, you got to go a little bit harder than that.
Yeah.
Honestly, it could have been just another planet.
Well, I mean, the galaxy. We talked about this before here too. Like the reason that they should continue with the galaxy is guess what? We've seen maybe 50 planets in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of space out there. You go to certain outer rim areas, they don't know what's going on in Coruscant and don't care. Or like somewhere out like Exegol or what's that space out there, the unknown regions.
The unknown regions,
So why was it a different galaxy? And I'm wondering if that, again, is by design, because remember, you're starting to see these rumors about, the statues at the end that you may not probably don't know.
I don't know what those are.
The Mortis statues, there's an Easter egg about what they talk about their planet they come from.
What was the significance of those statues?
The statue is of the father, the son, and the daughter. The Owl Morai is got pretty much the essence that Ahsoka has of the daughter, which is the light side of the Force.
It's some deep Force.
It's some really weird, like
wild stuff.
Right, where the Force originates, where it comes from, and he's standing on the statue of the father, who is like the balance between the dark and the light. The son is the dark side. So they're wondering if Balin's being pulled to what they've never talked about is the mother, because there's that light and beacon. In the Clone Wars episode, they talk about their origins in a planet that they had to leave from because that's where they started from. There's all this crazy wild theory that a lot of people starting to kind of think it could be where Filoni's going with this, but they got to execute it right. Otherwise, it's going to lose people on it.
A lot of people.
It could. And that's where they're going to. It's a whole other wild bullshit.
Was destined to be the father. That's why people are like, oh, he is the father because during that episode he could control both the light and dark side.
Well, and he's been on both sides now.
Yeah, and he is the balance.
He is the true balance.
But that's nor here nor there.
That's a whole other topic.
The saber fights I thought were pretty good. One of the reasons I love Empire Strikes Back, it's not because it's like the prequels have like the flips and the cool stuff. To me, this is pro wrestling. You have a match that's filled with spots, right? It's still fun to watch. It's cool. But then you have a match that like is Hogan Rock that they're not doing much, but there's so much drama and story behind it.
Moments.
That was with, especially episode 4, that fight with Balin and Ahsoka, because you didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't know if she was going to kill, because you sure as fuck didn't think Ahsoka was going to lose.
Right.
And then all that stuff happened, and then Sabine, like the fights with Sabine and Shin were sweet. Even the fight with what's the smoke dude? What's his name? The guy everyone thought was Stark. Merrick. That fight was sweet with Ahsoka.
Oh yeah.
But now at the same time, and then the fight with Inosanto. If you guys don't know, Diana Inosanto was Bruce Lee's goddaughter. Her father was one of Bruce Lee's top students, so that's why she's fucking sweet.
Yep, she is the daughter of Dan Inosanto, the first student of GKD under Bruce Lee.
But now, and my negative or my con was bad choreography, as in episode 8. Sabine, we'll go from the jump.
Oh geez, yeah.
Their ship is going so slow, and the TIE fighters can't hit it. Now we can joke all day long that
bad shots.
That's my point. That can't be an excuse anymore because Andor, with good writing, made the Empire scary as shit.
Yes.
So are we going to continue to make them a joke? And that's the case because episode 8 had no stakes and it had no sense of danger. It had no sense of danger because they can't hit a ship that's not moving. They are, rain fire on them. No one's getting hit. And it's supposed to be a Star Destroyer ship, so I know this is a nerd thing, but the lasers should be not taking out small things. It should be taking out massive, because that's how they glassed Mandalore, right? So it's things like that. And then when they're standing in front of all those stormtroopers, no cover, no nothing, and they're just off flicking. I mean, that
was super lazy.
It's lazy, and there's no sense of danger, and it takes me out of the moment. So I don't believe any of them are going to get hurt. When Sabine comes out at the end to help Ahsoka, and she's fighting all those stormtroopers, and she's moving so fucking slow.
Yes,
it's just like that's bad. Like, I'm a nitpick, so that's a nitpick. But for me, I see these things. When I watch my own wrestling matches, I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? And you may not even see it, but I did. And when I watch other people's wrestling matches, because to me, the little things make the bigger things more special.
Yes.
My bad, I keep hitting you.
No,
but
good.
like when you have stuff like that, those fights aren't special. But if you compare that to the Balin fight, that was special. It had weight, it had gravitas, it had stakes.
Yes.
Episode 8, I was never thought any of them were in danger at any time because of the way they put those fights together.
I don't know if it's on your list, but the problem that Sabine was getting written into was part of the reason we had problems with Rey was that, like, we understand that it's harder for some, like, it makes sense that Sabine was struggling with the Force because some people just don't have that kind of easy access to it, and that's fine. You have to grow into it. You have to learn into it. You know what I mean? You know, the lightsaber thing, I was okay with that because she was really trying. It reminded me of Empire, right?
Right.
But her all of a sudden being like, oh, I can do this, no problem. That's what you want to jump over there.
Yeah.
Here's Mickey Mouse. You know, just toss him over.
Dude, when that happened, I was just
that was a little too on the nose. Yeah. Like, she hasn't deserved or earned that quite yet. No character would have.
That is on there. The Force isn't special. I liked Sabine when she was a badass Mandalore. There's no reason to give her the Force. Yep. And then here's my thing. Whoever your favorite basketball player is, didn't pick up a basketball and hit a jumper and then go straight to the league, right? And you relate to someone because of how and again, I go back to the sequels. Rey's not relatable because she was just good at everything she did right off the bat. Luke, he progressed. He couldn't lift rocks. He couldn't do this. He could barely.
He saw the struggle, the growth.
He was very naive. He got his hand cut off, and then it wasn't until the last episode, the last movie, where he's like, oh, he's finally started finding his groove. It's because he progressed. When you go from A to Z like Sabine did, it's not relatable. And now if you give her the Force, no one's special if everybody's special. Right. Does that make sense? There used to be an old superhero show called Heroes.
Oh God!
And the
yeah.
first two seasons were really good because only like 5 or 6 people
Writer's strike.
had not force powers, had superpowers, right? But by the end of the show or end of like that season or everyone had powers. So they're not special anymore because everyone has these powers, so they're not special. Then that's the normalcy, so it's not the same. Sabine didn't need to be a Jedi. And also, if you look at it, there shouldn't be this many Jedi in the galaxy, right? Because it takes away from Luke being the last Jedi you will be, but that also takes away, I'm not a fan of the sequels, but it takes away from Luke saying, I'm not the last Jedi, we'll have Rey.
Mm-hmm.
But that means, no, you don't have Rey because unless they're dead, you still have Sabine, you still have Ahsoka, you still have Ezra, and maybe Jason, unless they're in the different galaxy at that time. Maybe that happens. But like, it just, once you start doing that, it takes away, it's not special anymore. And then like what Tone said, her going from force pull to super push is just like, it's not
and
relatable.
like, they were hinting, and I always said, I always thought, and I know you're not always, whether or not you ever agreed with me on this, but I always felt in Rebels they were hinting that she may have some innate force abilities, but at the same time, like, she was also training to use the Darksaber because that was heritage of the Mandalore. That was important. She needed to learn how to use that in combat to be able to lead the Mandalorian people as well too. But I always felt that was kind of like a silent nod that maybe she has some latent force abilities. I also at the same time didn't necessarily think that they would go this direction with her. Like, again, they use her for quite a plot device for this entire series. Whether or not it was necessary or not, I don't really think necessarily it was, because I agree. You already got Ezra around, who by some people's measures feel that Ezra's actually a pretty strong Jedi. At the same time,
I got that vibe right away from episode.
And Luke,
I was like,
it was a little on the nose though. Like, instead of taking the lightsaber, look at me.
Yeah.
Like that was a little much. Like I get they wanted to showcase it.
But then he gets tossed up against like he gets shit.
He still could have. It was like when Obi-Wan's gonna fight like Dooku the second time with Anakin. He's like, he's flying over here again too. It's our speciality, and then they're laying under a fucking ramp, like cool, but
okay.
They just, yeah. It was just that whole thing was piss poor storytelling. So continue. You got some more.
And actually, I only have 2 more. We covered a lot of them. Another pro was world building. They really tried to, even though they went to the new galaxy and really didn't do much, they tried to do a lot of world building with the expanding on what happened after the original trilogy, showing you how the New Republic, and of course that's gonna be my con with them, but and going to new galaxies, going to new planets and stuff like that, and really trying to build upon the world of Star Wars, and not just going back to Coruscant, not going back to Tatooine. They were trying to do new things, which I thought was cool. And then you get to see was it Low? What is it? Lore? What's that planet? It begins with L.
Lothal.
Lothal. Yeah, you got to see Lothal live action, which is really cool. In the same sense, the con would be for the New Republic. They make them dumb.
They just make
them stupid.
And they're supposed to be dumb for 30, 40 years because that's what is their downfall against the New Order.
That's the thing. It's like you can make. Why would we root for them? Why would we care if they die? Because they're stupid. They're writing them to be stupid. And it's like you can write them to have like inner conflict, like they try to do.
Right.
But it's just you're writing them, the way they come across is that they're just dumb. What do you mean? There's no evidence of that. I don't believe you. Yet there's all tons of evidence. There's witnesses.
Yeah. A general of the war that ushered in the rebellion fighting outside of Lothal.
I get it. You got to have a conflict on the same side. That's fine. But again, like you said, don't make it so obvious that like they're oblivious.
There's just some jackhole.
Yeah, it's just like so. And I bet you any money the next season or whenever they continue it, it's going to be, Ezra's back. And he says Thrawn's back too. I don't believe him. It's going to be a lot of stupid stuff like that. And it's just like, how are you supposed to get behind them or care when they get destroyed? You're rooting for them to get destroyed because they're so dumb. You got to have a really good villain to prop up a pretty good guy. And then that's not like Thanos. Thanos was a really great villain. So you're like, fuck, he could really fuck
I
somebody
feel like
up.
the Madam Chancellor. What's the Chancellor?
Mon Mothma?
I feel like she does like a decent job trying to be the smart side of it. It's just all the senators around her are
I don't
just
know
fucking
why
stupid.
they continue to add more people, like as if she needs like a. I mean, I get the committee, I get what they're trying to do with the New Republic, but like her alone as an actress, and she's been with us since episode 3.
Right.
Like she needs to, like, especially in Andor, she's like making hard work and acting really good. And then in the New Republic, you get just a taste of it. It's like, we don't need all this other bullshit going on. They're just adding more. It's more CW drama.
It is. And then I thought it was silly. I like to see C-3PO, but that's how you stop the trial. And it was just like, come on.
Gotta get somebody. You gotta get a legacy in there.
I marked.
I did too.
You gotta get a
was
legacy
happy.
in there. You gotta get a legacy guy in there.
But it's just the way they stopped it. And they're like, okay, trial's over with. I was like, no, that's not how that works.
You get him, you get a Leia drop, you get everything you need, man.
Right.
Yeah. And
Tabaka Bush.
a pro that we already covered is that it felt like Star Wars. We talked about it didn't stick the landing. We talked about it. The Force isn't special. Rushed moments.
I wonder by design, though, to go with rushed moments and what you said about not sticking the landing in that finale. I still wonder, is this, because Filoni kind of does this, is this by design to kind of like say, we know we're going somewhere, we're doing another movie, we're doing somewhere.
My rushed moment for that, it's not that. It goes with like Ezra.
No, Dita, I hated that too.
Ezra and Hera, that should have been way longer.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That moment.
We didn't even see them hug.
That was super brief.
Soon,
you could tell there was something there.
Yes, and
no open mouth kissing.
Mary Elizabeth Winston's her facial reaction told the story.
Yeah,
and I was like, ooh, I can feel how she feels just by she didn't even have to say anything.
Right.
And as soon as it started to get good and swell up, they cut, and I was like.
Yeah, see, coming from somebody who doesn't have the context that you guys have, I was just
basically
like
a mother to him.
I was like, man, I really would have liked to have known what that moment was.
At least Chop went up there,
and he didn't meet Jason.
He could tell.
Where
the fuck was Jason?
So here's the thing: when they come out with whatever happens next, are they going to gloss over that? And that again goes to that's my thing.
Jason has that ability to.
Yeah, but that's also his master who died. That's his kid, and he never met him.
Oh,
Ezra didn't know that she was pregnant.
And that goes back to what I said originally. These are moments that we need to see, but I'm willing to bet it's going to be off screen. Like Ahsoka mating Luke. This should happen.
Oh, meeting.
Yeah, mating Luke Ahsoka. But like these are things that we should see because it's huge, important to the story, but instead
you get that emotional
you
draw.
get like yes.
Instead, we're getting into the drama emotion shit with Sabine and not the feeling that we need.
It's one thing to get a nod, but it's another one you don't get anything. Like
there's
something there, but it's not important.
Chop went up and knew right away, and you notice Ezra touched him just the way he always did in the fucking Rebels, which was great. Chop knew who that was because droids got scanners.
He has the Force, so
everybody.
I thought that was dumb. I thought it was dumb that he walked out of the ship with the stormtrooper helmet on. I get it because you did it for like reveal.
You have that shit off? You're like, I don't want to get killed.
Man. Yeah, but I thought that was...
talk about. So what's the actor's name?
Amon.
I forget. I forget.
Yeah, he's really cool though,
and he's like apparently he's like a super fan of being this character. He posts on Instagram.
I thought he was great. I thought he was really good.
We'll go into him. He was one of the positives.
He was
awesome.
He knocked it out of the park. He
energy,
even fucking
looked
confidence. He was confident. He was charming, charisma. He had everything that you need from a character to build around.
Probably the best casting outside of Thrawn.
Yes, and Balin. But I wanted to see more of him, and I'm worried that we won't. I'm worried they're still going to push Sabine down her throat, and I don't want to see her. I want to see Ezra. Is what I want to see. I want to see Ezra and Ahsoka.
That's why I'm just kind of curious. Like, where do you think this is going? Because, like, okay, if you look at
let's get back to that.
If you look at what's set up right now at the end of this season, if you're doing a season 2. You're spending most of that season trying to find a way to get Ahsoka and Sabine back home.
Okay, let's hold on. Let's do this real quick. My other thing, we're gonna end it on a positive, but my last con that I can remember, I didn't write it down, was the zombies. Zombies were cool. They did nothing.
Well, they were part of the whole fucking goofy ass
But like you introduced this new element to Star Wars and you did nothing with it. Like the night troopers, right? Yep. You introduced them, but they're just stormtroopers with a different paint color. Yeah. And so
maybe
it's
a little bit more fierce. Barely. I mean, a hint.
And that's my thing. Is like you introduced something really cool. Like when they introduced the Death Troopers, they were badass. Like in Rogue One. Yep. But when you introduce these guys in this show and the zombies,
I mean, they look cool when they first out.
Right.
You know,
but like, and then there was nothing.
I mean, the power, like using the magic that the sisters do, that's not unseen. We've seen that in the cartoons,
right?
And again, with people without context.
I thought that was cool. I liked it. I thought the sisters
they don't get to any of that stuff. You know, when you're playing the video games, matter of fact, when you're on Dathomir, the Zabraks that are attacking you are probably undead. They're attacking.
Yeah, because they got the green eyes.
As well too.
But I mean, they were essentially they were zombies, but they were still stupid, shitty shot.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, that's all they were was shitty shot stormtroopers, but they were zombies.
Yes.
Cool. They have green eyes,
but they didn't.
But you didn't really expand upon it, to make them interesting.
Because that entire fucking episode was rushed.
Yeah.
My positive, my pro, and it's the best thing. It was so fucking cool. Was Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Man, I'm gonna say this. They all need to take notes because that motherfucker was ice cold in them lightsaber fights.
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson was slow. The girl that played Sabine was slow. Obviously, Innocenta was a martial artist, so she was sweet. But Hayden Christensen,
you can tell he's done it
like
before.
he was like episode 3 all over again. That motherfucker was moving. The fact that he had good stuff to work with. He still looks. I know they de-aged him a little bit, but if you've seen the behind-the-scenes stuff, he still looks young as fuck.
Yeah, he does. He hasn't aged all that well, all that much.
He was awesome. I didn't think we needed the Force Anakin at the end. I thought that was kind of like shoehorned in there, but I didn't. I mean, I'll take it because I love him.
Yeah.
But like, man, that episode was awesome. Chef's kiss, man.
To go with the chef kissing because that episode is incredible. That was a full-on raging boner. My boner had a boner watching that episode. And
Man,
it was because
it was awesome.
we all, what did I say from the beginning of this series? The one thing I always wanted to see, if we were going to get Hayden in it, all I wanted to hear was him in live action to call her Snips.
Yep.
And we heard it right away. And he called her it again. But in that episode, we got to see him in his Clone Wars armor in fucking live action.
It's cool.
Which was
that's some like context that I didn't have.
He had
walking around, I'm like, cool, but I
then
knew there were other little
flashes
things.
of him as Vader were sweet.
Dude,
what's that?
When
that cinematography.
Dude, honestly, man, I can't tell you how much I love that scene when Ahsoka brings up like what he becomes,
right?
And he gets upset. He goes, "Is that what this is really about?"
Yeah,
and he gets those red eyes. I was like, I thought that part, like even like then I was just like, that was sweet.
That was unbelievable storytelling, and like again, while we were missing the context of the PTSD and the baggage that she was carrying, the way that they handled that in storytelling with going through that experience with Anakin to bring her through that, for her to realize, stop blaming yourself because it's holding you back, was told so amazingly well. And man, when we even got live action Rex for a brief second as well too, for a hot second too. But when they're battling and he takes that wide stance and goes into what is it, Type 4 I think is when he uses that. That's the Type 4 I think. When
I don't know. You know more about that.
Yeah, I think it's Type 4 is when he goes into that, because that's typically Anakin's stance. Because Luke uses it when he's in Jedi. He uses the wider, like, because he's double gripping and he's just bashing on lightsabers.
If you notice too, he was doing like the spin maneuver. He tried to get her with
which
the same
apparently
thing
was a Hayden thing that come up with from what
that's
Ewan
so
said too.
Awesome. When
he
tried to do the thing,
fucking.
He tried to do the thing where he cut off her hands like he did Dooku, but like she did it to him and took his saber.
She was too smart for him because he probably trained her that route.
He did, he did. Right. But then it was cool too because then she was. You could. It seemed like, I mean, I guess in my head canon, like she didn't look at his tapes, his holocrons before. And then she started to, and then she goes, "He was a good master."
Yeah.
I think she came to terms with like
she was looking at him in Rebels.
She knew was really good.
She did look at him in Rebels.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she did.
She did look at him in Rebels. So, so she was clearly always looking at him. And did you
pancakes?
Little other Easter egg as well too. Did you know that if you watch closely in Episode 3 battle when he's fighting Obi-Wan, he tries to do the same shit that he did
Obi-Wan,
and Obi-Wan's prepared for it. So both Ahsoka and Ewan McGregor or Obi-Wan are too smart for it, unlike Dooku, who gets his hands ripped off extra nerd nerd for you.
I want to bring it back.
Yeah,
I want to bring it back. I want to get back to that discussion though. Like going forward, based on the way the show ended, and obviously Disney has, like you said, are they more interested in building on the property in a way that'll appease fans, or are they just looking for the quick buck? The way that they're set up,
on who's in charge,
exactly, and the way that it's set up. I mean, like obviously, if they were doing a season 2, the focus is going to be getting Sabine and Ahsoka back home, and exploring whatever Balin's going on and shit as well. But is Disney going to look at this and be like, okay, look, they got to look at the numbers. They got to look at how well it did, considering how much it costs.
Right.
Or do you think they're just going to be like, okay, look, we've established that Thrawn's back home. We'll rush in the Ahsoka, bring her back in the movie. Go right to the movie, have her come back some weird way.
I don't think they can go right to the movie because you have story elements that wouldn't fit in the movie.
But is that something that they can just make you think about, like you talked about,
I hope they wouldn't do that. I never know with Lucasfilm Disney because their track record's so weird when
Right.
it comes to doing stuff like this. You do have Skeleton Crew, which is supposed to be a part of this Mandoverse.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see them going to this, finding this galaxy somehow, and then bringing Ahsoka back, which would be just by chance type stuff, which I hope doesn't happen. Or maybe they send out a beacon. I don't know. Or they did kind of lay groundwork for Grogu because he noticed the Purgle when they were in hyperspace.
That's right.
So maybe
that's right.
he can communicate with them and find them
Who
or something
knows?
like that. Because he knows Ahsoka, so he might be able to be like, oh,
Yeah.
let's go find
I have a
Ahsoka.
question.
They could use World Between Worlds.
Yeah.
Can someone explain to me how a Purgle can do
He's
Yeah,
caught up. He's
hypers-
caught up on the hyperspace whale. Bad.
when a whale go? I was
Oh.
just like, where? I look, man, I can suspend disbelief, but I was
Right.
just like,
No.
how did a fucking whale do hyperspace?
Honestly, I think it's just a thing the creature can do.
I think it's just. Well, they say that it's got partly to do with the Force as well too. So if you think,
Yes.
Okay.
So if you
okay.
think,
okay.
so,
okay.
so if you think of hyperspace in fantasy terms, of,
Farts.
in fantasy terms of science, right? When we talk about in real life science, when you want to try and like in Event Horizon get to one place to another, and you fold time, basically time and space,
Sure.
black hole, wormhole, right? Whatever. I think with the Purgle, it's got something to do with more of the actual Force and being able to tap into
Okay.
like the light, almost like a life stream, basically. I wonder.
That was the only thing that I was watching.
it's
that whole
fair.
I was just like, well, it
And see,
feels like a stretch, but I'll take
Right,
it.
right.
Honestly,
it's
when I
definitely-
first saw it
definitely.
in the animation, I was like,
Yeah, I have a thing for tentacles and like whales and
Force
squids,
one
so whatever. But
I do
it's
think
definitely something different.
I do think it's cool. Obviously, if they're smart, they will. Because everyone's like, this has to lead to the sequels. It has to lead to the sequels.
No, don't.
It doesn't because it takes place 30 years,
gonna- Sure.
30 to 20 years. You can honestly have this be its own contained story.
Yes.
And then at the end, you can have a bookend of, oh, this is the First Order forming, and then leave it at that.
Yep.
And then you have Ahsoka, whoever survives this, they go to that other galaxy, and that's where they stay. So that way they're not, because you got to make it make sense. That way they're not around when the sequels do happen, because that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense unless you kill them all. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So,
I definitely. I think the galaxy has been set up for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's
Yeah.
to go to Peridia to find the original planet that the Mortis and all the father, son, and daughter came from, it's got to be a worthwhile story to tell that to be able to get there,
Sure.
and that whatever. I do like the thought process that the whales migrate there, and that's basically their boneyard, where they go to die. That's
Yeah.
kind of neat, like to see a ring around a planet, but just
Mandalorian.
bones.
I did love how the whales
thought that
fucking
was neat.
pieced out
Some
when they
great-
went through the minefield. They're like, oh, we're out of here.
yeah, they're like, man, we didn't sign up for this shit. What
I
are you
was,
doing, lady?
well, I was getting mad as somebody who's like an animal super fan,
Yeah.
like as a fur baby lover. I'm like,
But I just
why
love
are
that
they
part.
attacking these poor
I
fucking
just like
whales?
that part when Huang's like, hey, at least the whales are giving us some cover. And
Yeah.
they were like, oh, we're out of here. We heard you.
deuces.
We're out.
But again, I don't know. It's hard to tell if they know. I'm hoping with Filoni in charge, he's got at least a roadblock map or something here, something to work with. He's got.
I hope it's more of a roadmap
But-
than a mental block.
I meant to say roadmap, but the problem is that Disney's got to. I mean, they gave him the keys for this, and it proved. I think as a fan, for me, I was mostly pretty happy about it.
I was
Did
too.
He directed 5, didn't he?
He did 5.
I think
yeah.
he did 2 of them. I
He
know
one
five.
did-
did,
1 and 5,
He
right?
did 1 and 5. I
1 and
think.
5?
Yeah,
Okay.
1 and then. Yeah, he
and you
did
can
1 and
tell.
5.
You could certainly tell.
Yeah, he's
actually,
still learning. So
the fight in the red trees was actually pretty cool too. But anyways,
yeah.
with her and Balin. But
Yep.
certainly it's hard to tell where it's going, and that sucks. But it's also, it's harder because it's hard to be excited anymore about Star Wars because you feel like you're going to be let down a lot more frequently than you're not. This was a pleasant surprise.
Yep.
Mandalorian mostly has been. Boba Fett let us down. Andor was a really, really great storytelling, like Rogue One feel. Like I love that kind of thing. I wish
Andor,
that
it stands on its own.
Yeah, and I wish Solo got the love still that it deserves. It's not a perfect movie, but Ron Howard did what he could and redone a lot of stuff. I actually really enjoy Solo. I want to see more of Childish Gambino as Lando and things of that nature. But
I'm weird on that.
I really liked it.
Yeah, I like Solo, but I don't know if I care enough to see something with him.
If it's Donald Glover
you
doing
weren't
it,
too big on him as Lando.
I did. I liked it, but I don't care about if they do a show or movie with him.
Oh, I see what you're saying. With the character or with him?
No, with the character. And it's not that I don't like or dislike it. I'm just indifferent about it. Like, it doesn't do anything for me.
Okay, that's fair.
And I thought it came out of nowhere that they all of a sudden announced it. Like, it was...
Well, I mean, they've been doing that with so many Marvel and Star Wars properties. Hey, look at these 7 things coming out. So
we need more Ewok.
Because they're worried about money. They're not worried about creating that story.
Yeah, that's my biggest... I worry about that, too, because if Ahsoka doesn't do the numbers that they want, are they going to instantly be like,
well,
no?
They haven't given us a green light for sure on season 2, which, again, I wonder it comes back to design. Was this not planned? Was this more movie?
But I think the feedback is strong enough that it should... I would hope it would get greenlit. You know what I'm saying?
Hard to tell.
It's because I felt like they, like a lot of fans like me who have been on the fence. Like, if Ahsoka wasn't good, I was out. I had said that. I was like, I can't do Star Wars anymore. It's too disappointing because I love it that much. It's too disappointing. Ahsoka brought me back into having fun conversations, fun speculation instead of judging.
It's the first time in a long time that we as a Star Wars group have been able to be excited again.
Yes.
Because the last, like, Mandalorian season 2 was still good.
To me, it
was great, and 3 was kind of a letdown. Boba Fett was a letdown. So it was nice for us to constantly talk and show excitement again.
Oh.
And that's been tough. And I don't know. I don't know where it's going. I don't think any of us really know. It's hard to trust and it's hard to be excited. Like, I want to be excited because I love these characters already. I already love them in live action. I think doing what they did is hard to turn cartoon characters into a live action character, and they did a pretty good job of it because you had the right people as well too. But let's remember what happened in season 2 at the end of Mandalorian when they let Grogu go finally, so we can get to the adult side of it. And then Disney freaked out. It was like, oh shit, we're not selling toys anymore.
Not yet.
Let's rewrite this. And Kathleen Kennedy, got her face in the pie again. So I guess we'll see how we survive the remakes of episode 4, 5, and 6. That's also true. But yeah, so. Overall, we clearly enjoyed Ahsoka.
Yes.
As
somebody who is not familiar with the context of everything behind a lot of the characters, I still thought it was a really good show. But like you, I felt episode 8 was kind of like, it was close. It was close.
We needed more. And like, they need to stop with these fucking 36, 43-minute episodes.
Yeah.
Or just
make the fucking
stretch it out to 10 episodes.
Or whatever it is. Anything. Figure it out. But give us more. Like, you got to stop with this up and down bullshit. They do it with all their content, and it's fucking annoying. Yeah. Because then we're not getting enough content.
And the reason is because, man, I mean, obviously, look, it's streaming services stuff, and you can only put... I mean, obviously, from my what I've been reading, the budget on this was astronomical. Like,
and it should have been.
It was a lot, but I mean, at the same time, they if it's going to be a high budget stuff, they can't run at 10 episodes because then they have to go to Disney Plus and be like, hey, we got to raise the prices on this thing again.
The volume,
and then eventually you start losing people.
I think filming it in the volume hurts though too. I know they're still trying to figure things out, but some of the fights were hindered because there's nowhere to move.
Yeah.
And they rely, like Andor was doing set locations.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go back
and it
to
felt
that.
open.
Yes,
that's the problem with that goddamn screen. It
doesn't feel lived in.
It doesn't.
Obi-Wan looks so cheap.
You can fucking tell that it's
Obi-Wan
fucking digital.
And
they've been jerking that off since episode 2, Attack of the Clones came out fully digital.
Yeah.
They
need to stop that. You need to start traveling places and maybe use some of the volume, but a lot of stuff you got to go to set piece. You got to do like travel and do set pieces.
We need some practical effects more frequently. So
and
it's just gonna stop.
I will say the special effects in Ahsoka, like some of the vehicles, the ships.
You can tell they had some budget at least.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they didn't go cheap for sure.
I love the
definitely lifeless. Looked a lot of lifeless.
Yeah, it does. It does look lifeless, and but this one was better. I hope Star Wars can get back on top, and I think you need to let Filoni be in charge of creative because I think he gives a shit about Star Wars, and he knows how Star Wars works. And I need to I'm not excited for The Acolyte because I'm not excited for it because of instead of promoting the story, they've just promoted their politics. And I hate that. I don't care what politics you are. That's not why I'm watching this to escape. It should be in a galaxy. I should be finding out what happens in a galaxy far, far away, not what's hot on Twitter yesterday.
Right.
And that's what I feel. So, and they're hyping this up The Acolyte. And that's what I'm worried too because they got a lot of good faith back with fans like me. But I think once that releases, if it is how I worried it's going to be, you're going to lose all that good faith.
Yeah.
So, which is really going to suck. But hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully they put that out, before, and don't let them talk about it. Honestly, just talk about the story, talk about the characters. Don't talk about
give us a good product,
the patriarchy, and all this other shit
What is the next Star Wars property?
Supposed to be The Acolyte, or supposed to be Skeleton Crew. But you haven't heard shit about that, so I think it's going to be The Acolyte. And The Acolyte, I thought, was supposed to be the end of the year.
But with the strikes, everything's probably pushed back.
Or no, The Acolyte was supposed to be early next year. So who knows?
I think I was reading somewhere that, realistically speaking, with the strike and everything going on, I think they said you can expect season 2 of Ahsoka no sooner than 2025. So they're thinking it's probably a ways out due to the strike and obviously trying to figure out where they're going to go with the property.
But Mando season 4 has already been taught. They don't know what they're doing with that because
it's written, but they haven't done anything.
Well, they said that might be a movie now.
Oh, really?
That's what I'm saying. They don't know what they're doing. Geez. I will say this. I think the next thing that's going to come out will be Tales of the Jedi season 2, and I'm hoping the Tales of the Jedi season 2 will be about Balin.
God, I hope so, man, because I want more of that. I want more of whatever was going on with him and whatever his plan was, because he said that to Shin, and she was like, look, your path is this way. My path is going somewhere else.
But I think if it's about Balin, we'll see, because have you watched Tales of the Jedi?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think it'll be about his past and how he meets Shin.
At least give me something.
I'm for that.
Because even if it's his past, I'll understand his motivation going forward.
Motivations. There you go.
And I do think they should not, whoever else is in Tales of the Jedi, it should not be about Ahsoka. Put her on, let her cool off.
Damn right, Dita.
They keep using Ahsoka too much, I think.
Right.
And it's like any good babyface that gets hot, they start to shove that wrestler down your throat, and then you're just tired of
That's
them.
what they did with Grogu.
And I think they're going to do the same thing.
Worried I hope they don't do that with Ahsoka, but I've seen the fucking toys out there. They're fucking doing it. Trust me.
Yeah.
Goddamn toys.
Fucking doing it.
Yeah.
So, but
it's so you gotta bring her back a little bit.
Yeah. Oh my God, are you gonna be all right?
He's an old man, dude. He's gotta get in bed.
Man.
Plus, his chair is super comfy. That's why he's falling asleep.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. I know we run a little bit extra. Everybody appreciate everybody hanging on. A lot to talk about. We knew this was probably going to be kind of one of these shows where it's just a couple of topics that were deep. We had to really claw in there.
This is probably one of our best conversations. I didn't go on a rant. That was pretty sweet.
True. Well, I mean, it was a Star Wars product that you overly enjoyed, and I will always say this is the big piece I think to take away that you always should remember in my humble opinion. You are perfectly fine to criticize and critique the things that you like and love because everything has the ability to be better because it's not perfect.
Correct.
So that said, I will always listen to people that are able to do that with the things they love. If you can't, then I don't want to hear about the things that you hate.
Ooh, and that's I know we're gonna wrap it up, but that goes to the fandom. I'm really not a fan of the Star Wars fandom right now. We are in the middle of it. We can say this is good, this is bad, and don't label each other. You have these people, especially a lot of I used to watch these YouTube channels, but I was like, oh, well, we'll see how they act when Ahsoka comes out. And they're just grifting. They hate it. And it's like, there's nothing to hate about it. You can dislike some things, but in all honesty, it's pretty good Star Wars.
It's not perfect, but
they're like, this is the worst show. I'm like,
oh,
okay,
no,
you guys are just spinning an agenda. But in that same sense, over here on the right side, you have these people, I didn't like when Sabine did this. Oh my God, look at you, you're this. And they start to label you, and you can't have critiques. And people, they refuse, they don't have any, they don't know acknowledge perspective.
Right.
They can't have a civil conversation. They can't look at things objectively. If you didn't like it, then you're some type of this, that, or the other. And that stuff is I see it on Twitter every day, and it's like, I hate it. And I almost want to mute Star Wars because I see these fans, and that goes back to our toxic fandom.
Yeah.
And it's not just the people that say, oh, whamming this or Rey, Mary Sue that. No, it's the people that say, hey, Rey's overpowered. She wasn't written that well. And then you have these people over here, oh, you're sexist, you're this. And it's like, oh, my God, just shut up.
Sometimes it's just about the story.
Yes. And it's like, you're not allowed to have an opinion to if you liked it or dislike it. And you have these people on both sides while we're right in the middle having civil conversations. These people ruin it. And they're
and the thing is, those people that are ruining it probably don't have the time invested of the people who are being critical of it, because they've been there from the start of the movies. They've been there through all the books. They've been there through all the shows. They have the context of everything to look and be like, look, this doesn't fit what Star Wars is. But then you got the shallow folks who don't have that context, who haven't seen everything, but they just want to bitch about something and say, oh, you're fucking sexist. You're this, you're that. It's just like, dude.
Disney
overrated.
Since the late 80s.
Final Fantasy 6 sucks.
Disney, unfortunately, and Lucasfilm didn't help that when they attacked fans too that didn't like it, or any product when they start to do that. I was called an idiot once.
Final Fantasy 8. That one's dope, man. That was great.
Was 8? Which one was 8?
Oh,
was that with
Squall?
Yeah, that opening was
sweet.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and then you played the game. Yeah, and that's very fair, Dita, and I think that's also a good point as well too. And it's unfortunate that it's got to be like that.
Fuck them all, Dita. If you got an opinion on something about something you love, fucking voice your opinion. Fuck the haters.
Yeah, tell them to suck a butt.
You can always come here and share that opinion. We'll love to hear.